Hello, Jody. Nope. Hello, Jody. She's.
Thank you. I finally got it.
And Brad, are you there? I mean, it looks like you're showing there, but is it working where you can hear everything?
Yeah, Aaron, I can.
Okay, good. Good to know. We'll give a few more minutes here. We're still short potential. Mr. Patterson and Dillard Myers, Ms. Dillard Myers, Connie.
I know Connie's usually got a good connection, but sometimes she's on her phone.
We'll wait just a couple more minutes at least. My phone shows 6:31, but heck, the wall clock doesn't quite show 6:30 yet. In here at Brookins.
In this neck of the woods this morning, the internet was spotty. So
there's Kyle.
So this is Steph. We lost our internet yesterday for a few hours.
Huh.
Comcast?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, we'll wait. I'll go till 6:33 on my phone to see if Connie logs on. And then if not, we'll go ahead and start the meeting. That looks like it'll be about 6:30 on the wall clock that I'm looking at.
And Connie arrived.
Yep, here she is. Good. That means we're all here. Good evening, Connie. Oh, yeah, have to unmute yourself if you're wanting to talk, Connie, but see you there.
Sorry about that. I thought I had unmuted myself.
Nope, there you go. Good. Okay. Well, since looks like all the Eluc members are here, I will go ahead and call this meeting to order and ask for the roll to be called so we can get this recorded for the participation and members present. Go ahead, Ms. Mary.
Okay, Patterson.
Here.
Thorsland.
Here.
Dillard Myers.
Here.
Eisenman.
Here.
Furtado.
Here.
Goss.
Here.
Esri.
Here. And we'll also note that Mr. Rosales is with us. And then also Mr. Bradley Eucken from the Champaign County Farm Bureau. Okay, we're on to item 3 then of the agenda. Approval of the agenda and addendum, which there is no addendum. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second it.
I believe Mr. Patterson and Mr. Thor is moving it, and Mr. Thorsland for a second. Any discussion? Not really expecting any. Okay, all in favor, please. We're just going to do like last meeting. Just go ahead and do it with actual voice. Please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. That's approved. We will then go to section 4, approval of minutes from May 7th, 2020. Is there such a motion to approve?
I'll move it.
Moved by Ms. Furtado, seconded by Ms. Eisenman. She's raising her hand. Corrections, additions to be made to the minutes. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, that passes. Okay, we are on to part 5, public participation. And at this point in time, I believe Mr. Eucken, you are the only one here for public participation. So feel free to go ahead and unmute yourself and say what you care to say to us tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. I just want to follow up. I think Mr. Hall was able to share with you some comments that we submitted on regarding case 973 and 972 this afternoon. I greatly apologize for getting it out to Mr. Hall a little late. That was just some challenges on our end of getting it prepared and everything. So I think our comments share with where our views are at. So I'll let that kind of be our testimony as of what we submitted earlier this afternoon.
Okay. I don't know if the committee would have any questions for you later on. We're fairly usually in this committee fairly open to asking questions of people who are here on issues before us. So I don't know if you want to stick around, Brad, or not. That's entirely up to you.
Yeah, I would ask
Aaron,
Brad
I'll
if he
stick around.
can. Okay, thanks. Yeah, I would like it if Brad stuck around.
Okay.
I think we might have some questions later. Thanks, Brad.
Okay, thanks, Eric, and yeah, thanks, Brad, for being willing to stick around. This isn't the point of the agenda where we would ask questions if we have any. I do not see that there's anybody else in this Zoom meeting that would be here for public participation. So we will go ahead and close that and move on to 6, communications. Are there any communications from the committee members? Seeing none, we will then move on to new business. Part 7, new business, items to be recommended to the county board. We have A, zoning case 972-AT-20, Part A, amend the Champaign County zoning ordinance to add definitions for the following types of adult use cannabis businesses: dispensing organization, infuser organization, processing organization, transporting organization, craft grower and cultivation center. And Part B, amend the Champaign County zoning ordinance to add requirements for adult cannabis businesses only within 1.5 miles of a home rule municipality with more than 20,000 population. Does anyone care to make such a motion?
I will.
Yeah, I accidentally hit my mute. Thanks, Ms. Eisenman, Jody. Moved by Ms. Eisenman. Is there a second? I'll go ahead and second it for discussion purposes at least. I know the chair doesn't usually, but we're such a small committee. So, okay, we're open for discussion. Anyone care to, Ms. Eisenman, go right
I
ahead.
have a question. I didn't get the comments from that Brad Yukin's talking about. So can you enlighten me? I'm having email problems all over, so I haven't gotten anything from the county for a while.
I could ask Brad, Mr. Yukin, are you available? Can you briefly outline the Farm Bureau position for us, please?
Yeah, Aaron, I can.
If I may, before you start, if someone could share it on the screen at the same time, it might be helpful. That's up to, I'm sure someone has it open. I have it open on my laptop.
That'd have to be,
I can.
that's above.
Yeah, I can do that, Aaron, if you'd like.
If you're available to do that, Brad, yeah, there you go.
Thank you, Brad.
Can everybody see that right now?
I can.
Yeah, I just put it up.
Okay, thanks, Stephanie.
Thanks, Stephanie. Then you got it. So, basically, the Farm Bureau has a history of being involved or interested in zoning issues as it pertains to the county. And really, we took a look at these two cases, the 972 and the 973, and looked at it and talked about how cannabis, there, it can be viewed as an agricultural product. I mean, it is grown from seed. It is for human consumption, and it is something that you could almost label as horticulture as well. I mean, because the regulations regulate these and that they're going to be grown inside. So we looked at it as, is this our concern is this a step in the direction of regulating agriculture? I mean, keep in mind on the state level, cannabis is regulated by the Illinois Department of Agriculture. And while we don't disagree that the Cannabis Act does talk about that it does allow for zoning, it's just a concern of ours a little bit of is this a step down a path of starting to regulate an agricultural product? And again, you can view cannabis as agriculture just because of, again, being grown from a seed. It is for human consumption. It is grown in a greenhouse type atmosphere. And so that's just a little bit of our concern. And we just wanted to put that out there. Of where that's at. And then really to finish the last sentence there in our letter talks about, we believe that the county should not limit where cannabis cultivation centers and craft growers can locate, as they're an agriculture enterprise. And so that's really where we're at.
Okay, thank you, Brad. Mr. Thorsland, go right ahead.
Yeah, I don't know how many meetings we've talked about this, but it's been quite a few. And a long time ago, I asked about how our zoning proposed ordinance would jive with the Right to Farm Act that we have in Champaign County. And I think, I don't know that we ever got a completely satisfying tie-in with that. I agree with Farm Bureau's position that, and I think I've talked about this before, that this is indeed agriculture and it's regulated by the state. And
Eric,
You're mute.
you're muted, Eric.
sorry, I'm using the space bar style, and sometimes I pick up my pen out of. I was very hesitant about 972 because it was very restrictive. 973 still has restrictions, and Brad knows that long ago I served on the land use committee there at Farm Bureau. I was on the zoning board for quite some time, and this often comes up. You know, if you have ag land right next to a residential neighborhood, it doesn't stop you from doing agricultural related activities on that land. So I'd like to see what the committee thinks. I also would like to maybe for 973 propose a friendly amendment to Part C of that when we get to that. But right now, thank you, Brad, for explaining the letter. And I'm sorry that some of the people had email. I know, Jody, I got another one of those emails from you that had nothing to do with you. So yeah, it looked like you got spoofed again. Sorry to hear that. That's all.
Thank you, Eric. Anyone else?
Are you all good? Can I stop sharing my screen?
Looks like it. Jody just shook her head yes.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, thank you. That was good job, Stephanie, getting that up there so quick. So any further discussion on 972-AT-20? This is the more restrictive of the two. Go ahead, Jody.
I'm just going to say, and you all know where my heart is on this, and I just have to stick to my guns, and I respect where everybody stands. I just will vote for this just because I am so, which it's going to pass unanimously, so it doesn't matter other than me. So I'm just going to stick to my convictions, and I can say to my children, your mama fought with all of her heart to keep this under control and to keep it slowly restricted. I was at the Muhammad Dollar General the other day, and man and a woman came in with their small children, and I thought, just walking past me, I was afraid perhaps I'd have a contact high because it smelled like they had just gotten high in their vehicle and I just thought even opening it to 21-year-olds, which this isn't the forum, this isn't what we're voting on, it's already illegal, but I just the damage that's going to be done to children, I want that on the record. It's going to be detrimental to we aren't going to see the consequences for many years. And it just breaks my heart. They were all under the age of 8, 3 kids walk in and they all smell like weed. I mean, like that just breaks my heart. So I will stick with this one just because that's my conviction. That's who I am.
Thank you, Jody. Before we do vote, I don't reckon he does, but I'll ask Mr. Hall if he by chance has anything he wants to add. I mean, I know we have discussed this plenty of times before. He's shaking his head no. So when I'm looking at him here at Brookins, anyone else before we're ready to vote? Okay, seeing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Bye.
Aye. Okay. All opposed, please say nay.
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 Okay, I heard that as 4-3. I believe. I mean, I don't think it's any surprise. I voted for it, Ms. Eisman, and I heard Mr. Goss, and I believe I heard for it, and I believe I heard Mr. Thorsland, Ms. Furtado, Mr. Patterson, and Ms. Dillard Myers against it. So I'm going to say that failed. And we are on to part B, zoning case 973-AT-20. We have part A, amend the Champaign County zoning ordinance to add definitions for the following types of adult use cannabis businesses: dispensing organization, infuser organization, processing organization, transporting organization, craft grower, and cultivation center. Part B, amend the Champaign County zoning ordinance to add requirements for adult cannabis businesses only within 1.5 miles of a home rule municipality with more than 20,000 population. And Part C, add requirements to authorize the following adult cannabis businesses except within 1.5 miles of non-home rule municipalities and except within 1.5 miles of a home rule municipality with a population of 20,000 or less, and except within 1.5 miles of a residential zoning district located more than 1.5 miles from a home rule municipality with more than 20,000 population. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Thorsland,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Patterson. Discussion on this.
Yeah, if I may offer
Go
up
ahead,
some
Eric.
friendly amendments to B and C.
Oh, you're muted again.
Yeah,
There
I'm
you go.
gonna
Okay.
mouse my
problem.
way over to the real unmute button. Thank you. And again, I understand Jody's worries, but I also know that this is a legal business, and like many other substances or products, we can't regulate by zoning people's behavior as much as maybe some people would like to. And I still worry. I think that excluding agricultural land that's in the 1.5 miles is not the right thing for us to do. I have always had strong feelings about the 1.5 miles. Again, this is decisions made for people who cannot make a decision about who represents them. These are people outside of the ability to vote for the council or mayor of a small village, but at the same time subject to the rules of this small village when it comes to annexation and other things. And in this case, we'd be telling people with perfectly good agricultural land that they couldn't be a cultivator or a craft grower, which is inside a building, and would be subject to, I propose the setbacks that are listed in 1, 2, and 3. So I would suggest, and maybe John could help, that if you look at B, that we change that to add requirements to authorize the following adult cannabis business as follows. And this then 1, 2, and 3 point out the zoning districts that the businesses would be allowed in. And these are the businesses that have to do with infuser and processing and transportation, craft grower and cultivation center. But in particular, the things that fit B4, I2, and again, I2. And then for C, change that to say, add requirements to authorize the following adult cannabis businesses as follows, and eliminate all of the 1.5 and home rule and population requirements that are in that. Because then if you read 1, 2, and 3, 1 is regarding the transportation, and that John made a very good case that sort of falls underneath some other similar zoning, and that's often allowed in B3, B4, Ag 2. And then for 2 and 3, the craft grower and the cultivation center, it has the setbacks, which if you read the very well done letter from the Farm Bureau, they agree that setbacks are in the best interest of the community, and they agree that setbacks can be used in this case, but it doesn't exclude any of the ag or 1 or 2 that's in there. And maybe we want to add something specifically about ag 1 and 2. And at that point, I'm going to be quiet and let John, who's maybe a better wordsmith, suggest things if the board is interested in amending these like that.
John, do you care to speak to that?
Can you hear me? Yep. Okay. Well, I actually lost track of what Mr. Thorsland was proposing. I thought you were going to propose eliminating the 1.5 mile exclusion zones for cultivation center and growth center.
And I think that's what I was trying to say. And that is in B and C, if I read this. Yeah, and I'm on page 9, where it's spelled out in, in the advertised language. But again, my question would be to you, John, is B only dealing with dispensing, infuser, processing?
Yes.
I know that 2, okay, well then in that case, I think that B could be left as it stands, because these are businesses that fit in that B4 zoning district. And those exclusions probably would relate to other things as well, and they're not related to agriculture. So strike what I said about B, but in C, the middle of the page, page 9, let it read up until businesses, and then pick it up again as follows, and then use the restrictions that are listed in 1, 2, and 3, but strike the 1.5 mile and the exclusions based on populations. Because I don't know that regular agriculture wouldn't be allowed in any of those places.
And if you're proposing to, in a sense, treat cultivation center and craft grower like agriculture, which is to say, don't put any requirements on them, more or less say they're allowed as agriculture, you could still get some irate municipalities, because the whole point of leaving this at Eluc for a month was for them to react to what Eluc is going to recommend. And now at this meeting, if you change the recommendation from what was from the public hearing, I mean, I could imagine you getting complaints from municipalities that you changed it and didn't allow enough time for protests. So there's that caution. But if you're really going to amend this and treat cultivation center and craft grower just like agriculture, I can see a certain logic there that you're not going to prohibit it, but you're not going to add requirements. You're just going to let it be like agriculture.
Right, but if you look at 2 and 3, they do say that it would be subject to special conditions and a special use permit. So it's not like they would just start to bubble up. There's also the rather onerous and lengthy requirements to apply on the state level that are a huge filter, I think, at the beginning of the process before we would even get involved. By the time they come to us, they will have jumped through and paid lots of money to bring a proposal before us, I believe.
Yeah. Now, my understanding is that leaving those conditions there would probably not meet the hopes of the Farm Bureau.
I understand that, but there is a sort of maybe a middle ground that we could find. It would mean that each case would have to come individually before Eluc and then the board, as far as similar to, when we do some of the more other interesting applications of sort of agriculture related businesses. And I'm not to say that this isn't agriculture in a pure sense of the word, but because there's two sides of this in a much more open form of public debate than there is in, if someone was interested in opening up a greenhouse and growing hot peppers or flowers in it, I think we wouldn't get a lot of pushback. But this will always come up as an issue when it does. And I don't know, I can't interpret how Farm Bureau would feel about that. And I don't know if it's appropriate to ask Brad here on the spot, who's here, but and I understand that this has been lingering and waiting for public input, and I'm asking for a very big change. My question then would be, if we pass 973 on to the county board with some limits to the changes, do we get an opportunity later to address the agricultural nature of the craft growers and the cultivation centers in a new piece of ordinance, or is that just turning a crank over and over again?
Well, I do wonder if this isn't worth running a new text amendment, which would slow things down. But I'm really concerned about advertising the text amendment with these 1.5 mile separations. And then finally, when it gets to the county board, the separations are removed. That's really legally very risky.
Well, given that, maybe other people on the board want to pop up. What you're saying is basically that we can amend what we're working with here if we pass this in the near future.
Yes.
Aaron,
Okay.
can I speak for a second?
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with John. I think if you want to invite a protest, go ahead and change this one. But if you invite a protest, it's not likely to pass. And so, John, my question to you would be, what happens if neither of these amendments pass?
We would be back in a position where our ordinance is silent on cannabis businesses, and the language of the ordinance says that the zoning administrator has to treat it as whatever else is most similar. And for infusers and processors and dispensaries, I would treat it just like this proposed amendment. But for cultivation center and growth center, or a craft grower, they would be treated like agriculture.
Okay, I think we've gotten this far. We've been monkeying around with this forever. I think this last minute change, either you take it back and you put it out there, or you invite a protest I don't think if you go to a super majority of 17 to 22, I don't think you got the votes to pass this if it gets protested. So I think we ought to just leave it alone personally and let it be, because when it only has to pass with a majority, I think it passes. You get out to the super majority, I don't think it passes.
So if I'm clear, John, if neither one of these pass tonight, then you become the arbiter of applications to the county.
That's right.
And that would allow ag to be ag. And it would put the zoning limits on the other similar businesses like transportation and fusing and retail.
That's right. And anything that would be in a greenhouse, this amendment before you has the requirement for control of nighttime lighting. I doubt that anybody would add that voluntarily. So, I think to a certain extent, this amendment does some good things at the risk or expense of stepping on the toes of agriculture. Whatever the county board might happen to approve this month, you could run another text amendment to revise it in the future. So if you wanted to do one of these this month and then turn around and run a cleanup amendment, that's entirely possible.
Is there any time sensitivity to having an ordinance through the county board by the end of this month?
Obviously, there are 2 or 3 applicants who are wanting to do something in Champaign County. The only one that is really realistic is one that would be in the a transporter in the industrial districts, but nothing in the rural area that has been proposed is feasible under any of our rules. And so to that degree, I don't think it's tremendously pressing. Was I muted all that time?
Stephanie, did you have something, a comment?
I mean, I will say we did pass. I appreciate Eric. I appreciate your amendment, and I do think it makes sense. We did pass the solar farm amendment, and then changes, and then it seemed to me instantaneously started editing them. So there's not like we haven't done that before as a committee. So we could pass this and then do the cleanup amendment. I don't know, maybe that would also give us more time to get the input from ag to make sure that cleanup amendment really does support agriculture as much as possible.
Yeah, and I would be, in agreement with that. I'd like to see the cleanup amendment get done pretty efficiently. I want to point out, we talk about greenhouses and things, but every cultivation or craft grower center I have seen has no glass. It's not like you're going to run up and smash a window and run away with a bunch of plants. These are usually in metal buildings, and there is state requirements about the security that's required. So you would drive past a cultivation center and think it's somebody's machine shed most of the time and not even know that it's a cultivation center. There's even state requirements about the odor. Which doesn't apply to the people who work there when they come out, but it does. There's already a lot. So then I will sit quietly and be eager and ready to help with a cleanup amendment in the near future.
Okay. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Stephanie and Mr. Hall for comments thus far. Anything else from any of the other committee members or Mr. Rosales?
I have no questions at this time.
Okay, just checking.
would
I guess we're really letting the state run and control these growing farms or these growing businesses instead of regulating it here locally.
At least as far as if the yeah, we're just looking at doing the zoning regulations on it, where they could or couldn't, can or cannot be placed in the county. The rest of it is pretty much up to the state anyway. And I think one thing, just saying, Mr. Thors, I think there might be like, you have to have a chain fence or something around them. I mean, the security, I think you might, if you're paying attention anyway, you might drive by and notice it's a little bit better built than a machine shed, but it wouldn't be necessarily super obvious that it's a grow center. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's
Yeah.
minor. That's very minor.
Connie has her hand up.
Okay, yeah, she did start to speak. Go ahead, Connie.
I was just gonna say that this whole operation with the growing, processing, and transporting is already going on with CBD, which is marijuana's cousin. Marijuana has the THC and the hemp has CBD. And there are CBD growers, processors, transporters right here in Illinois. So I don't know what the fuss is about marijuana. I really don't. I don't think there should be any regulations beside those that the state imposed. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. Further comments before we're ready to vote? Seeing nobody's hands or nobody unmuting. Or Mr. Goss, are you wanting to say something?
I'm ready to vote.
You're ready to vote. Okay. I just saw your mute come off. That's all. Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Nay. Okay. I'm going to say that's the 4-3, the exact same personage as the last vote on 972. Unless somebody disagrees with that and wants a true like roll call. But I'm pretty sure with only 7 of us, I'm hearing it correctly. Okay, I'm going to say that passed, but not unanimously, passed 4-3. Okay, we are then on to other business. Does anybody have anything else to bring before this committee tonight? Mr. Hall's not indicating anything. I don't see anybody else indicating anything. I have nothing. We will move on to 9, chair's report. Other than we've got a little too much rain all at once last night. but that's really, other than that, no chair's report. And that's not really a chair's report. That's just a comment. Designation of items, 10, designation of items to be placed on the consent agenda, nothing. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you all for attending. Adios.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you, folks. Nice to see you.
Everybody,
Bye.
everybody
Staying on, Brad.
Thanks to everybody. Thanks to the staff. I know you guys work really hard. Thanks.